With reusable god powers basically confirmed for Age of Mythology Retold, how would this actually look in-game? I believe some god powers would fit into this model quite well, while others would straight up break the game unless they're reworked. In this video, I ranked every god power on how it would work if it had a cooldown, without any major balance changes happening. Let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to rank all these in a tier list, all the god powers in a tier list. I've tried to start from Archaic Age, Classical, Heroic, then Mythic, but we'll just change them as we go around. For starting wise, I've put 3 categories down, whether it works with the cooldowns or not, whether it will need a slight rework to work with the cooldowns, or whether it just straight breaks the game and it will either need like a massive rework or just won't work at all and you need a new god power. So I think we're going to start off with Bolt as its first. So this is one they've even teased about and said, "Oh, having more than one Bolt in a game." And I just think that straight up works with the cooldowns. I mean, this for me would be the balance of what a god power with a cooldown would actually do. I mean, this is similar to in MOBAs as they kind of mentioned. Um, so in like the early game, you can do the bolt on the enemy like Jason, Odysseus, early myth unit, and then within the late game, it still keeps its strength because you can use it on a Colossus or a Fire Giant or something. So I think with a relatively, I mean, I don't really know how the cooldowns will go, but I mean something like this on like a 5 minute cooldown or something, I think would be absolutely fine. I don't think it would really break the game at all. Next up is Sentinels. So this is the Hades god power that puts sentinels around your town center. I'm going to put it in the slight rework because I can imagine if this is on a cooldown, every Hades town center will have these sentinels on. And if you're in a team game, every single town center would have these on. And it isn't like they're busted, but I think there needs to be some kind of thing like maybe you can have it on 2 town centers and then you can't use it again until they get destroyed, and then you can put it up again. I think it would just need to be slightly reworked. I mean, maybe we could put it in the works for cooldowns because I think the thing is with everything being on cooldown is everything is OP. So that just sucks. But well, no, maybe everything being OP is fun. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I think some crazy balance changes will have to happen. But yeah, Sentinels slight rework. Lure, I'm going to put slight rework, not because it's broken, but because it would just be awful. Imagine Lure in the early game is a really good one because you put it next to a town center, you get lots of hunt. But then what happens when the hunt's all gone? And the Zeus is there with his loads of bolts. The Hades is there with his like sentinels over and over again, and Poseidon gets a lure that can't attract anything. So a slight rework just because it's bad rather than anything else. Okay, now we've got Thor's Dwarven Mine. So Dwarven Mine, as it stands now, the earlier you use it, the less gold you get. So if you're in the Archaic Age, you only get 500 gold or 1,000 gold or something, depending on the balance. And in the late game, it's worth 6,000 gold. So Thor players have to think, do I want to use this now for an early advantage, or do I want to save it for later in case I get pushed off of gold? So I'm going to put this in breaks the game, and that might sound a bit ridiculous because I mean, all it is a gold mine. But in the late game, it is all about finding your gold mines, and when the gold mines are gone, it's setting up the trade caravans, the donkey caravans, whatever. So if the Thor gets this, I mean, I don't know what the cooldowns will be, but say this was on a 5 minute cooldown or something along that stretch, or a 10 minute cooldown, or even 5 minutes from when you finish the last one. Still, you'll have 6,000 gold every however long the cooldown is. And if that is in the game, Thor would be meta, I imagine, just because he can just sit in his base. Yeah, I don't know. I just part one of the main parts of the game is finding gold mines, fighting over gold mines, and defending them. And if Thor just gets unlimited, I think it breaks it. Carnivora, we know it works with cooldowns. I mean, it's not that good. I think it would have to be on a smaller cooldown, shorter cooldown than like Bolt or something, but it definitely works. I mean, they get 3 charges now. The Carnivora is the power that's like the Venus flytrap kind of plant, where it like eats somebody and then does some attacks and then it eats somebody again, kind of thing. Great Hunt. So this is the Odin power that multiplies your hunt. So say you've got 3 goats around, you can then use this on the 3 goats. I think it's up to 750 food. I'm going to put it in slight rework because I have a sense this would be broken as well. Because let's say you have 10 goats. You use this on it. I don't know how many you would get. You would get 5 extra goats, whatever. Then if you left those 5 goats to the side and then use it again, and then you can move 5 goats to the side, move it, use it again, and you could basically have unlimited. Whether or not that's broken with what everyone else can do, I don't know. Um, but the other thing is, if you don't use it like that, I don't think it works at all, because then again, it's the same as the law power, where it'll just be useless when once you run out of pigs and stuff, it would just not be useful. So I think both of these go in the slight rework for yeah, kind of similar reasons. Gaia's Forest. So this is Gaia's Forest, where she puts down trees for herself every minute for four. I think it's every minute for 4 times. I'm gonna say it works with cooldowns, but I kind of want to put a caveat to it. So maybe it needs the slight rework. It doesn't work if you have it every minute on the minute, because 20 minutes later your base is filled with trees and nobody can get in. So it doesn't work with the cooldown that it has now. But I think if there was something where you got either on the minute every minute for the 4, and then once you've chopped some down you get some more, or there are ways around it, or it's like you get 1 charge, and then 3 minutes later you get another charge, and then once you've chopped that one down, you get another one. I think there are ways around it, and I think I'm gonna say works for cooldowns, but not with the current cooldown. I think if it was a longer one, or as I've said, with once you chop it down, you get more. I think it's fine, but not straight up, every minute, because if you had a team of 3 guys, they could just wall off the map, within, I don't know, 5 minutes, and that would suck. Deconstruction, or deconstruct, whatever it's called. So this is the Chronos ability. Gets 2 of them, where you can deconstruct enemy buildings, but they get the resources back. I just think this straight up works. I don't know what the cooldown would be, even what it's on now, maybe a little bit longer. But it's good. It's good in the early game. You can deconstruct like their temple or their early military barracks and stuff, and then in the late game, migdals and hill forts. I just think it's good, and it isn't like broken because they can just rebuild it because they get the resources back. I think this is just straight up works. That's a pretty good one. Okay, prosperity. So this is ISIS power. It's 80% faster on the gold gather rate for villagers. I really don't know where to put this. I want to say it works. But there's probably reasons why it would need a rework as well. Um, I think it would need a relatively long cooldown, because the problem with everything being on a short cooldown is, especially the archaic ones, the point of prosperity is you can either use it early and get a big boost to get your town centers up or something, or a small boost for you to get your town centers up or whatever, or you use it later on with all your villagers on it. You know, you have like 30 plus villagers on, and then you just get loads of resources. Um, so if it's on cooldown, you can just do both, and then again when you're in the late game and you have like 80 villagers and you're just like you just go on 4 gold mines. And I don't know, I was going to put it in slight rework just for that reason, but I think, like I said earlier, if everything's broken then it might be fine. So yeah, I'm going to say the same for rain. um I think if it blocks other god powers, I think that needs to be removed if there's so many god powers being used. But then maybe that's fine. I don't know. Maybe it's fine to have one that blocks everything. Um, I just think it kind of needs to be, maybe the first one's quite, you get quite a lot of food from it, and then it gets toned down after a while. I just think there's something there that it probably wouldn't work as it is now, because it's really strong. You get such a boosted rate, and if you had, say, a team of 3, I mean, this is where they all break in like the team games. In a 1v1, yeah, you can have broken stuff, but you're only getting it from one guy. If you have 3 Ras, that one rains, the next one rains, the next one rains, and then say it's on a whatever cooldown, a 5-minute cooldown, a 10-minute cooldown, you then get those 3 again in the 5 or 10 minutes time. No. No, it's so tough. It's so tough to balance, but I'm gonna put it in slight rework because I think, yeah, the food needs to be toned down, at least after the first one. Next up is Shockwave, and I think this is, like, one of the perfect god powers for works with cooldowns. Obviously, it has 3 cooldowns now, and it's on, like, a 4-minute cooldown or something, and I think this is, like, perfect. It's broken now. I'd say, like, while everyone else doesn't have the extra cooldowns, there's only 1 bolt, whatever, I'd say Shockwave's probably just as good as Bolt, maybe even better, and you get 3, which is just stupid. So, works with cooldowns. If everything else is broken, then that's fine because it's broken now. Um, Spy. I'm gonna put works with cooldowns because I think it's good. So spy is the low-key one where he gets to see somebody else. So you spy a villager, you can see where they move, or you spy the army, you can see where they're moving, and it's really strong. It's a really good power. But I would say if I was to balance it, I would say you can use it, and then once you've killed that enemy, you would then start the cooldown. I wouldn't want to see like you use it and then it's on a 5-minute cooldown again or a 3-minute cooldown, whatever, and you can then use it again and you have like 2 spied things. I think that would just be a bit silly. So I think that would be a way that I would balance it. Once you've killed that unit, then the cooldown starts and then you can use it again. But I think it works. It's not too bad. Vision, you can just see a bit of the map. It's one thing it'd be really good for. I mean, obviously this is the set vision. Um, Also, those hands, they are looking a bit mid-journey AI hands. They are dodgy. Um, but it's good to use to just see their base, to see what your enemies are doing, or you can use it with a shifting sands or a tornado or something. I think it just would buff it if you could use it more than once, and I don't think it's that ridiculous. I mean, it'd be really strong in the late game because obviously nobody saves it for the late game, but you can see what people are doing, and I think it would add extra strategy to the set game. So I like it. I think it works with the cooldowns. I think those are all the archaic ones. If I find one, yeah, whatever, I can add on to it. Uh, by the way, I'm not going through the China ones. You might be able to see them right at the bottom, but I'm not going through Chinese because they've basically uh, it's been said that they're not in at least like the start without a big rework. So we're just going to leave China to it because they'd need to rework them anyway. So those god powers won't exist as they are. So yeah, into the classical age one. So Valor's first up, and it works with cooldowns. Uh, you get 3 or 2 depending on what balance patch you're playing. So this turns 3 units into heroes and 1 villager into a hero, and I think this would be fine. On the cooldown it is now, or maybe a little bit more of a cooldown if you can have unlimited of them. But I think it's good. Now this is where it just gets a bit silly. Ceasefire. Ceasefire is really good. Obviously, it's just good as it is now, and 50 seconds or 60 seconds or whatever it is a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of seconds. So if everyone's using all these, all I'm thinking about again is a team game where ceasefire in team games is so strong now. And I think I'd put it in slight rework. I think if you want it on a cooldown, give it less time. Maybe 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds. I know that's nowhere near as good, but I think that's kind of the point. If you get loads of them, I just think if you could drop down how long it lasts for, I think then it's fine to have it on a cooldown. Still not fine. I don't want to say fine, but yeah. Undermine. I think it works with the cooldowns. It's not really like a broken power or anything. It will just help you siege in the late game. So I'd say it just works with cooldowns. This is the Heimdall ability that you use on a tower. It kills a tower or does decent damage to town centers and fortresses and stuff. Maybe some slight like number tweaks to like buff it in the late game. Maybe it'd be better against hill forts and stuff. But yeah, I think it works. Uh, Restoration. So restoration is uh, one of the best classical age god powers, for sure. It's very strong. Um, I don't know where I'd put it. I think it if this was on a long cooldown, I think it would work because I wouldn't think of a way to rework it without just completely changing it. So what it does now is it basically makes your units invincible, kind of, unless you're getting proper targeted down. Like if it's an archer there and they're targeted by, if they're targeted by 5 Terma, then the archer's dying anyway. But oh, I think it works. But I think I would have to say it would need a long cooldown. This is probably a good point to say if anyone has a comment about anything that I'm saying, please put it in the comments. I love to disagree with tier lists, so I'm sure people will disagree with mine, probably especially about restoration being working. Bronze is not classical age, so we'll push him back. Healing Spring. Healing Spring. Healing Spring's dumb. It wouldn't work as it does now. Either that means it needs a slight rework, or it just breaks the game. I don't know. So Healing Spring, if you don't know, you get one Healing Spring. It heals your units. If the enemy then stands in it, it becomes theirs. So you need to use it in a somewhat defensive place, but not so defensive that your army can't use it. So there's a lot of thought that kind of goes into the Healing Spring. I mean, it definitely doesn't work with a cooldown. Why? This is a one and done for sure. Unless you could destroy it, then it works with a slight rework. But would would it even be good if you could destroy it? It's either slight rework or just breaks the game. Like, can it be used? The only way I would think that you can use it is if you could destroy it. But if it's on cooldown, they'd just be everywhere because they're not destroyable. Yeah, you can't take them out. Okay, I'm just going to put it in breaks the game. Shifting Sands. So Shifting Sands is another insanely good god power, and I'm going to put it the same as Restoration. I think it just straight up works. If what they're going for is you can use these really good god powers whenever you want, kind of, you can use them more than once, then I think Shifting Sands is good. I would drop it. Maybe. Maybe it is. I mean, is it's broken as it is now. Maybe it works for cooldowns is a bit bad. I don't know. I would have it on such a long cooldown that you would only get a couple in a game, because this is the same as what I was saying about like the gold mine. You can use it early and get your town center up, for example, or you can save it till a bit later when you've got loads of siege towers and loads of big myth units and elephants and stuff, and take down somebody's base. Or you can use it as a defensive tool to move away some enemy units. And it's like, rather than those ors, it would just be and. So you can get a fast town center, and then you can get the timing attack, and then when they come and attack you, you could just shift them away. Maybe slight rework. I don't know. Maybe just do your own units, but is that as fun? I don't know. Maybe a smaller area so you can't take as many things. I don't know. I think maybe slight rework. It's so good. It's so good. Okay, we're going to move on. Forest Fire. Now, Forest Fire isn't seen as a very good god power, but I'm going to do something that's probably quite surprising. I put it in breaks the game. Now I've had a thought about this before, and Forest Fire I think would absolutely break the game. So let's say you have 3 forests around your main base. The Odin player, whatever, goes Freya, sends his Valkyrie, and Forest Fire's 1. Okay, you got 2 left. It's on a. I think they'll be on a 5-minute cooldown. That is my rough guess. I believe Flash in League is on a 5-minute cooldown. I play Smite where everything's on like a 2-second cooldown. It's such a stupid game, really. Obviously, that wouldn't be the case. But things like Flash in League is at least when I used to play. I mean, this was like when it was first out. Flash was a 5-minute cooldown, which is like you go a short distance, like teleport a short distance, basically, like a citizen that's jumping into a manor kind of distance. And then so forest fire, you would have it on a 5-minute cooldown. Then you would do the next forest, and then you're like, okay, so they've only got one left, and then the cooldown would happen, and then they would have no forest left, and you would almost be able to wood starve them rather than the gold starve. And eventually, if it's on a short enough cooldown, there'd be no forest left for them at all. So that's why I put it in breaks the game. Maybe you could just put it in slight rework that it doesn't burn a whole forest down. It just does a certain section of it. Maybe that's how they could rework it. Or it's just on such a high cooldown that it's on like a 10-minute cooldown that it's like, okay, then you have to strategically use it. But I'm going to put it in breaks the game, which, people might disagree with. But Pestilence. Pestilence is the Ares god power. So that's the one where you can't train units for 50 seconds or some sort of time. Never know the timings exactly, but 45, 50 seconds, something like that. With everything else being so broken, I think it works. Maybe they could do a slight rework that it doesn't last for as long. I think that's what's going to happen with these god powers is they'll be toned down. So while the ones that I put in works with cooldowns, I think some of them will be toned. They will be toned down with the size or the damage or the area or something. But I think it just works. Plague of Serpents works. It's not very good. So in the late game, it's not really going to do anything. I mean, it works in the sense that it's not broken. It doesn't break the game. So I think it's fine. But a bolt in the late game is still useful. Whereas Plague of Serpents, I mean, maybe it'd be good for just getting like a raid off on some villagers. Maybe they could like towards the end of the game buff them against certain things or give them upgrades each time you use it or something. But there's ways to make it work. Okay, Eclipse. I'm going to put it in the slight rework. Or am I going to put it in works with cooldown? So Eclipse is for a minute-ish. Myth units are faster, stronger, and this blocks all other god powers. And I think that's the main one. That's the main one with the rain and the Eclipse is how do they want to work it with blocking other god powers? Because it just makes Eclipse so much stronger, unless that's what they want to do. Because what you could do is in the early game where you don't really have that many myth units out, you could use Eclipse to block somebody's restoration, to block somebody's shifting sands, whatever, the flaming weapons, whatever they want to use, the curses. And then it's on a cooldown, and you can use it later again when you have 5 Phoenixes out, when you have 3 Mummies out, when you have all your Scorpion men, and you're doing the Ancestors Eclipse. So I think that's what that's the issue with it, is it blocking other god powers, but maybe that's just the strength of it. So I'll put it in slight rework for that, but it's probably fine. Ancestors is fine. It's just an army for a small amount of time. I don't see why that would be a problem. Obviously, later on in the game, it's not as strong. It's the same as the Plague of Serpents, but I don't see a problem with it. Ancestors is the Nephthys technology. Well, a technology. The Nephthys god power. Obviously, we're on a god power list. You get it's something like 11 or 13 little ancestors that go around attacking. I should know. ISIS main for a while, but but yeah. Next one is I think this is called Chaos. I just completely blanked on what it's called. But this is the god power that changes. I think it's 3 human units and 1 myth unit, or 2 human units and 1 myth unit to Gaia. So it basically kills off a myth unit. That's it. It works with the cooldowns. This I'd put on a way shorter cooldown than anything else. I would have this if 5 minutes was the standard cooldown or whatever. I would say Ancestors 5 to 8 minute cooldown. This would be like a 3-minute cooldown because it's just nowhere near as strong, but it works. Locust. It's very strong. It's very strong to put on a cooldown. So Locust is the god power, the Hathor god power that kills villagers within the locust swarm and takes out farms. I think it might kill fishing ships as well, but I could be lying about that. No one uses it on the water anyway. So it's very good. I could put it in slight rework to tone it down, but as I've said, things will probably be balanced anyway, toned down. So I think it works. I think it won't break the game. Speaking of breaking the game, I think Underworld Passage breaks the game. Underworld Passage is the Apollo god power where you set an entry point and an exit point, and you can transport all your units. I could even put it in slight rework. I'm not sure. So my thought process behind this is, if you were to use Underworld straight away, you use it, you attack somewhere, you take down whatever it is, they have to run back, destroy it, you gain a big advantage. And then you would just gain that advantage on cooldown every time. Or even worse than that, if the cooldown starts from when you place it, if you place it and really defend it, then you could get 2 more underworlds and have like a whole thing where you transport to one, then transport to the next one. And I could imagine that just being busted. That's my thought process behind breaks the game. If they were to do it where you could only have one at a time, and then when it's destroyed, I think that, and then it goes on like the cooldown after you've taken out the underworld. Maybe that's fine. If it's on like a really long cooldown, like a 10-15 minute cooldown or something, like maybe that's fine. I don't know. I'm gonna breaks the game or slight rework. I'm gonna put breaks the game because yeah, sounds good to me. Bronze is fine. Bronze, yeah, gives your units more armor. Obviously, you'd have to look at the balance of like how much armor it gives you and all that sort of stuff. But I think it's fine. It won't break anything. Oh, Spider Lair. Oh, I missed out a Classical Age. So this is a Classical Age one from Leto, however the hell you say her name. That's the one with the spider eggs, and that's just fine. Yeah, it's fine as it is. It'd be on a longer cooldown than it is now, but yeah, I think it's good. It's one of those ones that's good. Citadel Center. Citadel Center breaks the game again. So Citadel Center is the Sekhmet god power that you target your town center. You get 10 extra population and a really tanky town center. Basically, it's a lot of the campaign town centers are this for the enemies. I believe, from what I remember. So it's again could be slight rework. It could be breaks the game. The reason I put breaks the game is if it's on a straight cooldown where you get it every set period of time, you would end up with 3 of these if they're still going for the 3 town centers each situation. Then you would have 30 population above the enemy, which is just dumb. So that's why I think it breaks the game. If they would do it where if it got destroyed, it would then go on cooldown, whatever, then the slight rework thing should also be fine. But oops, I'm going to put it breaks the game. Traitor works with cooldowns. A lot of the ones from Atlanteans are going to work with cooldowns because they're on cooldowns already, because they're just weaker god powers. This is one where you steal a myth unit, steal a siege tower, steal a catapult, whatever it is. Yeah, fine. It gets better as the game goes on because the units that your opponent has is better. So you could take a Colossus late game. So yeah, good. Curse works. So curse, you just transform an area into pigs. And I think it works. Transform an area. You transform an enemy army that's in an area to pigs. You get a certain amount of HP value for it. So if they're lower HP, then you get more pigs. If they're high HP, you don't get as many pigs. So it's obviously not as good as the game goes along, but that's why I think it's fine. Now we're on to the scary ones. So flaming weapons is, I mean, arguably one of the best god powers in the entire game. All your units get double the attack, which is obviously a lot. It means you auto win a lot of fights. If it's even, if you're slightly behind, you also come out on top. So it's hard to put it in the works with cooldowns unless it's an insanely long cooldown. But apart from it being busted in terms of how good the god power is, I don't think there's a problem with it. Hmm. Apart from you don't have to think about when to use it. I mean, that's the case with a lot of this. Why it doesn't work is what you're going to do is you're going to advance through Bragi. You're going to use this with whatever army you have, just because in X amount of minutes later, you're getting it again. So, yeah, use it now. Why not? When I get Ragnarok later, I'll use it again, if Ragnarok's obviously still in the game. Um, so that's what I don't like about it, but that's the same for all of these. And I think that's what it kind of takes away. Uh, Saving god powers isn't as good. It's going to be the same as like the MOBAs where you just have to use your ultimate because it's on because then you get it on cooldown and then you can use it again. Obviously there is still strategy in it, but yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna put it in works, and I think people would not like me for that, but that's fine. Frost. I think Frost would need a rework for it to work. So Frost is the Scardy god power. You target a big area, it freezes everything for a minute. The reason I say slight rework is it freezes villagers as well. And I think if you were to use it as soon as you advance through Scardy and you basically take out an army for free, and then later on, if you could use it on villagers as well, and I don't know, I think unless it's on the most insane cooldown of anything in the game, I think it's busted. I'm not going to put breaks the game because you can do a lot with it with the slight rework. You can make it a much smaller area. You can do it so it doesn't affect villagers. You can do it so it affects an HP total rather than whatever. You can do it so heroes aren't affected by it. So yeah, I think it would need to be reworked to be on a cooldown. Hesperids Tree. Hesperids Tree is the one where you get 2 and then the Dryads come out. This breaks the game because it's the same as the Healing Spring. You can't destroy these things. So unless there was a way to destroy them, then they're fine. But it's the same as a Healing Spring, where if you want to steal theirs, you just stand some units by it, then you can make your own Dryads. So that's my thought process behind that. Or just do what it is now, limit it to 2. Maybe you can delete it and move it somewhere else. Maybe that's how you buff it against everything else getting something. But as it stands, if you were to get it on a cooldown and you would end up in an hour, if there was like a 45-minute game, really long sluggerfest of a game, you'd end up with like 6 trees. And that's just silly. Walking Woods. I guess it's fine. It depends what version. So the original Walking Woods is awful. It's you use it in an area and they just like go and attack random stuff. And then obviously, if you know what you're doing, you can just move a unit to the corner and then the trees follow that unit, however long their radius is. I can't remember. I mean, it's been ages since it did that, unless it still does that on Extended Edition. I don't know. I don't play that very often. But on the Voobly balance patch, you get an area of trees. That's now your army, so you can move them around. It's like an Ancestors, and I think it's fine. Yeah, maybe slight things with the size of it or whatever, but I think it's fine. Now this is the scary bit. We're getting into like the crazy Mythic Age god powers now, and this is what I think everyone's worried about with the reusable god powers. Because I didn't want to talk about it, but about the Chinese god powers, but this dragon guy, you get 3 of him, and that's stupid. Why the hell do you get 3 of him? Like you put him. I mean, I can't remember exactly what he does, but he's got a lot of health. You stick him next to a town center, and he kills everything, and then you get 2 more of that guy, which is dumb. But these god powers are so good. They're so good that without some serious reworking, I don't think they would work. I don't think there's one god power here, just looking at them all, that works with a cooldown, with their current state. And unless it's a crazy cooldown, like a 15-minute cooldown or something, I don't know, is that a crazy cooldown? Like 10-minute cooldown? So let's just take something like Lightning Storm. I'm going to talk about them as a whole to start with. It would take something like Lightning Storm, where you go through Hera, so you can get this one huge attack, and Lightning Storm kills so many units. It takes out almost a whole army if you're at the max population, whatever, 115 population. It takes out your army, the opponent's army, unless they hide in buildings and whatever. But you normally try and time it and bait them out so you're not close to buildings. But then if you were to do that, and then in a certain amount of time later, it's like, oh no, Lightning Storm is coming back off of cooldown. I can't leave my base now, because if I go and attack that guy, he'll just have Lightning Storm, and my army's dead. So I have to defend, and then the ball is all in the Hera player's court, where they can attack whenever they want. And if your opponent just isn't next to buildings, GG, I wipe out your army. What can you do? So yeah, I'm going to actually play this one now, because obviously I was doing it. So Lightning Storm breaks the game. It's a shock to everyone. I know that Lightning Storm on a cooldown would be insane, unless it's severely changed, like a small area, whatever. So in that same sense, I'm just going to put some together that are similar to this. So Implode is kind of similar. I mean, it has the sense that it isn't the same if they were to attack you and they're in your base. It does a small amount of damage to your buildings too. Obviously not as much as if you were attacking their buildings. Excuse me. But still, you're on that timer where you're like, oh no, they use this at, it's going to be the same as MOBAs, where it's like, this guy used this at 15:12. It's on a 10-minute cooldown. So that means at 25:12, I cannot be anywhere near out in the open or whatnot. And I think this also, you can't even hide in buildings with Implode. So yeah, Implode breaks the game too. The question is, are there any of these any of these Mythic Age god powers that don't break the game? And I'm not sure. I think a toned down Nidhogg and Son of Osiris, I might actually talk about them together. A toned down version of Nidhogg or Son of Osiris, I think, could work with the slight rework. None of these are going to be in the works with cooldowns. I think that's clear. So Son of Osiris, I'm going to say, works with a slight rework. So I was having to think about this the other day. So I think, similar to what I said about some of them earlier, if your Son of Osiris gets taken down, it would then go on cooldown, and then you could use it again later in the game. But maybe you could do something, because everything's going to be OP, right? So maybe you could do something where you can also heal him up slowly, or he regenerates very, very slowly. Maybe how like the Titan does when you get that Titan effect. There are certain things you could do to Son of Osiris where he could be reusable, or you get one, but you can heal him up or something. So there's a slight rework, and I think a Nidhogg also works for that. Or make them not as strong, but on a cooldown, but not crazy cooldown. I don't know. There's something there with the extra units, the 0 population strong units that you could do to make them work with the cooldown system. I genuinely believe that. Yeah, I think a lot of people might disagree with that, but I think there's something you could do to make these work. And I wouldn't ever want to remove these either. Like, especially a Son of Osiris is something that's like iconic part of the game. Let's go with more breaks the games. Ragnarok's dumb. Ragnarok shouldn't exist as it does now anyway. So Ragnarok changes all your villagers and dwarves into these OP heroes that do so much damage and have, like, they're basically the strongest units in the game, human units. I think they're like similar to a Myrmidon attack, but have more defense, more health. So, yeah. And then imagine having a massive Ragnarok, and you've managed to defend it, but basically the game starts again because you've lost a lot of your villagers. His villagers are all gone. So the game starts again. And then in X amount of time, he has a Ragnarok again, and you've got to go through the whole thing again. Nah, no way. No way. Let's talk about more that breaks the game. We'll go for Plenty Vault. So Plenty Vault is the power that's very similar to the Hesperid's Tree and the Healing Spring, where you put this building down, nobody can kill it, but you can take it for yourself if you put units next to it. But obviously, if you think about it for 2 seconds, you just shouldn't put it in a place where enemies can do that, unless then you've already lost. So if you had more than one of these, it's just stupid. You shouldn't ever have more than one of these. Unless when they're talking about reusable god powers, they're thinking everything from the first 3 ages with some slight reworks, and then the Mythic Age ones are one and dones, apart from like Vortex here. Maybe. But yeah. Plenty Vault is the main breaks the game. That is the first thing that I thought of when I was like, what would it be like if we could use the god powers more than once? Plenty Vault would break the game instantly. Stupid. If you think about the final mission of the campaign, where you can get like 5 Plenty Vaults or something, you just don't even need villagers at that point. So yeah, stupid. Maybe Vortex is another one. I don't know. Does Vortex break the game? So Vortex transports all your units, unless they're in a building. They transport all your units to a set area. And obviously it's really strong. You get 3 of them now. And it's on a minute cooldown, a minute 30 cooldown, something. So obviously, anyway, it would have been a slight rework, because if you had it on a minute cooldown for the rest of the game, that's obviously busted, breaks the game. But even on a longer cooldown, maybe that's fine. Maybe that goes in maybe that's similar to Shifting Sands. It's basically like a better Shifting Sands. So I think that could go in the slight rework and have it on a bigger cooldown, but unlimited. Yeah, maybe. Now these last 5, Fimbulwinter. It's another one that blocks god powers. It affects everybody. It's very strong in team games, like very, very strong, because it hits town centers. So what it is, it sets a load of wolves that you can't control on the enemy for 20 seconds ish. Yeah, either slight rework or breaks the game. I'm just gonna do this. I'm just gonna go breaks the game. It's crazy. It also blocks other god powers. People underrate it, but I think it's really strong, especially if you can use it as some kind of timing attack, or like a way to get them off of you, or just yeah. Then these last ones, can either go. They all get bunched together. So we have the Tornado god power, which sets a big tornado which kills units and buildings. Earthquake, which destroys units. It destroys buildings, does small amount of damage to units, but basically destroys the whole base. Meteor, that's like a bad version of Earthquake, where it's like an RNG version. The first ball of the meteor goes where you target it. Everything else just goes randomly. You could hit buildings, you could hit nothing, you could hit units. It does a lot of damage where it does hit, but it's not very good. But it's not very, or it's very inconsistent, rather. And then the Tartarian Gate, you put it on an area, it lets out Tartarian spawn, and your opponent basically has to bring back an army to destroy it, or have some kind of counter ready. Like there's the Ra strategy where you put Sekhmet, the Sekhmet Scarab in your temple. They like to destroy temples with this because it's just a good place to attack, especially when you're advancing through the ages. Your free Scarab then comes out to destroy it, but you have to really play around it. So I think I'm going to put all these 4 in breaks the game, unless instead of slight rework, it's major rework or huge cooldowns. That is what I'm going to go for. So that is the tier list kind of situation. I'd really like to know anyone else's comments. So this is this was based on what they were talking about with they're going to put everything on a cooldown. And I think what I've decided here is probably 2/3 of them almost could work. Uh, if a lot of them had a slight rework, they could work. Obviously, the cooldowns and stuff would need to be changed, and I expect when the game is out, some of these are going to be absolutely busted on a really short cooldown, and they're going to get abused for the first few months before they decide to change it with a lot of balance patches. But yeah, let me know what you think. Yeah, we'll see you in the next one.